Hi, I'm Margaret and welcome to the Gardening Me. Today I am dividing some heucheras that I put in the ground about 2-3 years ago, 2019, 2020. And they're looking a little bit scraggly. When I feel around, I can tell that they have developed several of those woody stalks that happens after 2 or 3 years. So I thought today would be the perfect day to divide them up, as well as there's one heuchera that looks like it's heaved a little bit out of the soil over the winter. It's a tiny one, so maybe that's why. I don't think these have. These seem to be pretty firmly planted. They're just a little bit stalky, as in not stocky, but stalky as in with stalks, lots of stalks. Not stocky as in like full. So that's what I'm doing today. So firstly, why don't I just show you around to the different ones that I have. I have 4 different varieties here. And then we'll get started with digging them up and dividing them. Okay, so here I have a couple of lime marmalade heucheras, and these are actually my favorite varieties. I'm a huge sucker for the chartreuse plants, and these are my favorites. These definitely need dividing. You can see here that they're very congested in there. This one I think has heaved a little bit out. It's kind of sticking up out of the soil. And this sometimes happens when you have freeze and thaw cycles, and these plants, heucheras, are shallow rooted, so sometimes that just kind of pushes them out of the soil. This one has not obviously done that well. I'm pretty sure I planted this at the same time as the lime marmalades, and it may not have been a big plant when I planted it, but this is not looking that good. In fact, I'm actually thinking I may take cuttings from it. So in this area here, I have another lime marmalade. As you can tell, this one is doing nowhere near as good as the other two. I'm not exactly sure why. And this one here is called Marmalade. So once again, not doing too badly, but in need of a little bit of TLC. This one is Plum Cascade, and I actually just planted him last fall. So it's still looking good. It's not stocky at all. So this one I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to do anything with him, and I'm hoping that I get some good growth from this one this year. Okay, I'm going to start with this one here. It's a nice big one. And first I'm just going to move some of the mulch away from here. Oh, try not to get it on that guy. Like that. Okay, and now I'm going to grab, instead of a shovel, I think I'm going to use a fork for this one. It'll be easier, I think, to get up underneath it without cutting through too many roots. I'm going to feel for the center. It's around there. So I'll do, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 inches away from the center on this one, all the way down. And I'm just going to lift, then kind of go on this side, do the same thing. And lift. Ooh, this is going to be a heavy one. I think my shovel's a little bit squeaky. Okay. I'm going to just shake off what I can, pull it up. There we go. Here we are. Let's look at what we have. Okay, so you can see here the stalks. I'm going to see if I can put it closer there. So there, for example, is one stalk right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab it like this and just kind of try to pull it apart. Pull the roots apart. like that. Okay, right. Okay, so here I pull this off, and there's actually 2 stalks here, and these will just quickly pull apart. Heucheras apparently root very readily, so a lot of people put it right back in the ground with no roots like that, and it roots well. But what actually I might do is because it looks like I'm going to have a lot of divisions here, so what I might do is I might do a few in pots, a few in the ground with no roots, and then we'll see if, in fact, just putting it in the ground, making sure it stays moist and stuff, if that actually works. I'm just going to keep dividing this until we have all the divisions from this one plant. Okay, I'm done. And I'm actually quite surprised. I knew there were quite a few divisions that would come off of this, but I'm looking at 7 of these. Yeah, that's a lot of divisions from one plant. I'm going to set these aside and see how many I get from, I have 2 more lime marmalades. We'll see how many I get from those. I have this one here that I'm going to dig up, and then I have the other one in that other spot further down the bed. So let's get to this one. Oh, this one came up really easy, I guess because it's so much smaller. Let's see what we have in this one. So once again, I have a stalk coming here. There's roots down here. I'm just kind of twisting it and pulling it, but I'm kind of pulling it down so I'm getting some of those roots as well, like that. Again. For this one, I got 6. So as well, quite a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to clean them up, because a lot of these leaves are old and tattered, and what I want to do is when I plant this back in, I want to plant it right into the bottom of the crown. When I cut off the leaves, I'm going to cut off all of these larger tattered leaves, and the only thing that I'll be keeping is this really fresh new growth right in the middle. Now I do have this one. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess I can still bother with it. This is the thing. If I put this in the ground and it doesn't end up rooting, I haven't lost anything out, right? So I figure, whoops. So even a tiny one like this, I'm going to give it a go. Why not? Just to see if it works. This one right here is one that I think heaved out of the ground a little bit. And what I'm going to do here is just dig it up. And there's 3 little offshoots here. I'm going to divide it as well. And this, I mean, this looks pretty pitiful, but I do see tiny little leaves coming out. So I think what I might do for this one is, because I basically only have this one plant, I think what I might do is I'll pot this one up, the one that's the most viable. These 2 I'll put in the ground. This still has roots on it, but I mean, this is just so tiny. I don't know whether it's going to do anything. And this one doesn't, well, it has a couple of tiny little roots, and it does have some new growth there, so maybe we'll be able to get something from it. So I am going to just snip off these stems. And plant this one nice and deep so that, like I said, it's hard to see on this one where that base is, but it's around, I don't even have to pick it up, it's around there. Okay, so I just want it to come up basically to there. And I'm gonna do this one too. I am going to pick, I'm thinking 5 plants for this area. I'm gonna pick mainly the ones that have a lot of roots, like this. And maybe I'll do 3 bigger ones and then a couple of smaller ones with no roots. I'm going to pot up 3 of the heucheras, so 1 of each variety that I am dividing, and just to see how they do in the pots, whether they do a lot better or the same as when I just plonk them in the ground. I think this one is a nice one. I'm going to take this and this, I'm going to set these aside, they're going to go into pots. I think I have a few spots where I could use a little bit of extra. I'll find a spot for these, or I'll give them away. Everyone's always up for some free plants, right? And I think that's good. That should be good. I'm not going to be adding any fertilizer because I actually already dusted these areas a couple of weeks ago with some Sustain organic fertilizer, so it's already on the soil. I don't really feel the need to add any more. So I'm probably going to be, I don't know, I'll plant these about 12 inches apart. Oh, this is a deep one. If I find that these root really well without the roots, what I could even do is just cut that stalk down. Right now I have to go pretty deep because I'm burying the stalk. If I find that if I just cut off the stalk it still roots just as easily, the next time I do this what I'll probably do is do that, and that way I don't have to bury them 6 inches deep. I could just bury them 3 or 4 inches deep just to cover the bit of stalk that I leave on. Now I'm going to just water them in. I'm also going to just smooth out the mulch in these areas. Well, it's not really mulch, it's dropped needles and mulch. Okay, and that's what it looks like now. I mean, you can barely see this one. I spy with my little eye. There's a heuchera in there somewhere. So, but if it grows, we'll be able to see it soon. Okay, so now off to the next spot. I think one of the reasons that these are so hard to get out is actually not the heuchera itself, but it's the arborvitae roots that are kind of in here and making it difficult to dig out. Oh yeah, because quite frankly, like this just popped straight out. And oh, look at this. You can really see how this is. All stalk. I'm just going to take that off and these two off. Oh, and here actually I thought this was one, but in fact it's two. So here's one. I'm just gonna pull it off. See? Okay, so from that one I was able to get 4. Oh, this one's looking a little bit sad. It doesn't really have many divisions on it. It's just sort of one big clump in the middle. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean it all up, leave the really nice ones in the middle, and I am going to cut the stem. There's really not a lot happening down there, so I'm going to cut the stem on this one as well. But I have some of those extras from the planting on the other side of the path, and I'm going to plant some of those around the spot just to fill it in a little bit so it's not just one lonely lime marmalade heuchera. So let's see what it looks like once I clean it up. Okay, so you can kind of see it is starting to develop some offshoots, but I don't think I'm going to bother with dividing that. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. They kind of all attach to this one main stem, so they don't have individual stems of their own, it seems like. So I'm just going to leave it. This one, I am going to cut the stem. I'm just going to, whoops, cut it off right there. Like that. That may have been a little too much. That's only about an inch. Yeah, about an inch, a little more than an inch. We'll see what happens. I'm putting 3 of the marmalade here, like this, and then I have 5 of the lime marmalade kind of in this pattern here. I have something coming up here, and for the life of me, it looks like it would be something I planted, but I can't remember what it is, so I'll have to look at my notes. So I don't want to plant too close to that. Okay, I'm back. It's about 4 hours later. I lost track of time when I was doing the dividing of all the plants on our front walkway, and I completely forgot until the last minute that I had to go for an oil change. So I went, it's quite far from here, and I had to do a couple of other things along the way. So now it's about 4 or 5 hours later, and my cuttings are a little bit limpy. What I did before I left, I mean, I knew this wasn't going to be a 5-minute go back and forth, so I did have the potting soil already mixed up and dampened a little bit in preparation for doing the potting up. So I basically took them and went like this. I don't know if that was enough. Maybe I didn't press it down hard enough, but anyhow, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I'm gonna barrel through anyway. So what I'm doing, I'm gonna pot these up. I have 3 little terracotta pots here. Uh-oh. Oh, there it goes. Okay, 3 terracotta pots here. I'm also gonna be using a little bit of rooting hormone. Now, I kind of see different opinions online. Most people say that I've seen you don't need rooting hormone in order to get these rooted. You can just simply stick them in a pot. Some of these, well, this one has actually a little bit of a root. So, yeah, this one, oh, this one's looking sad. Oh, look at this. Okay, so why don't we get started potting these up? I'm gonna put some potting soil in here. This is just standard ProMix potting soil. And I'll tamp it down lightly. Now, because I'm going to be basically putting a hole in here with my finger and putting the stem in the hole, I'm filling it basically all the way to the top. Well, within half an inch or so of the top, because I still want room to water. And that's that. Now this one here, I am going to dip into the rooting hormone. This is the lime marmalade. Tap off the excess. You don't want too much rooting hormone. That can actually be a detriment if there's too much. And I'm just going to put it in there, press it down. It's a little bit top heavy, so hopefully it stays upright. And there's one done. Next is this one. I'm not even sure. I mean, this one still has a root to it. So I'm actually thinking this one, I am not going to use rooting hormone in it. I am going to just make a hole like this, make sure that root is all the way in there, and just cover it up. Go all the way down to the crown. So cover up all of that stem. And then that's that one. And last but not least, this does not have any roots. These are just bits of stem. So I'm going to use a little bit of the rooting hormone in here as well. Like that. I'm thinking I should probably cut this. Ugh. I am too lazy to go in and get the scissors, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go like this, tap it off, and there. Put that in. Done. And last but not least, definitely water it in to get good soil contact on that stem. Okay, so I'm all finished. Some are looking a little bit better than others. I will keep you guys up to date on how these do, good or bad. And this is the thing, you learn by doing. What works for me may not work for someone else and vice versa, right? And when it comes to heucheras and dividing them, there's all kinds of advice, and some of it is a little bit confusing, I found, and contradictory. I did see some sites and some recommendations that said to place the crown just on top of the soil. I saw others that said to actually bury it by a little bit. I saw others where it said you basically take all the leaves off the stem, you essentially leave nothing except a stem, and you put that in the soil, and that's how you get a new plant. It's just confusing. So basically what I do when I'm looking at all these kind of differing recommendations is I look to see what looks reasonable, and I basically make an educated guess at what seems like it's going to work, and then I just do that. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So we are going to see how this works out. So these guys here, I can't even remember now which one. I think this one here, well, you know what, maybe it makes sense. This one here that had that root still attached to it, this is the perky one, and it is the one that does not have the rooting hormone. The other two, those are the ones that do have the rooting hormone. The ones that I planted in the groups, some of them had roots and some of them didn't. Some of them, and I just put them in the ground, no rooting hormone. I watered them in, and we'll see how that goes with those. I will keep you up to date on how these guys do. Hopefully better than this. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now. Okay, so I'm just out here. The next day we had a really nice rain, and I thought I would show what they look like. They're all very perky. I love it. So that's one group. Now we just move down here, and here are the other ones. Oh, love it. And here are the ones that I put on the porch, the cuttings, and guess what? Okay, so this one still a little floppy. There was one extra kind of bigger leaf. I took that off just so that the plant wouldn't expend a lot of energy or too much energy trying to rehydrate those leaves. But look at this one. Remember, Mr. Super Floppy here is looking really good. So I am excited and optimistic.